Chapter 18, Monitoring and Controlling. Here are a couple more examples of futuristic thinking. Here are the learning objectives for today. Explain the nature and importance of control. Describe the 3 steps in the control process. Explain how organizational and employee performance are measured. Describe tools used to measure organizational performance. Discuss contemporary issues in control. What is controlling? It is the process of monitoring, comparing, and correcting work performance. All managers should control even if their units are performing as planned, because they can't really know that they are under control unless they're evaluating what activities have been done and compared actual performance against the desired standards. Effective control ensures that activities are completed in ways that lead to the attainment of goals. Whether controls are effective is determined by how well they have helped employees and managers to achieve their goals. Controlling provides a critical link back to planning. If managers didn't control, they have no way of knowing whether their goals and plans were being achieved and what future actions need to be taken. The control process is a continuous process. Once you have finished the 3rd step, you begin the process all over again. 4 approaches used by managers to measure and report actual performance are personal observations, statistical reports, oral reports, and written reports. Exhibit 18.3 summarizes the advantages and drawbacks of each approach. Most managers use a combination of these approaches. Which of these approaches are you the most comfortable with? Variance means that perfection is not achievable. In a hospitality business where people are very much involved, it is nearly impossible to meet a standard all the time. If you were managing a housekeeping department and one of your housekeepers had a perfect cleaning score but could only do 8 rooms a day versus the 16 rooms a day for the other housekeepers, would you reduce the number of rooms for the other housekeepers or have her be less accurate in cleaning the rooms? Why or why not? Rankings are a popular way for managers to measure their organizational performance, and there's not a shortage of these rankings, as shown in Exhibit 18.7. Rankings are determined by specific performance measures, which are different for each list. Before choosing a company to work for, you should determine how good the company is in terms of their future growth and performance, and how well they treat their employees. However, some great companies is not known to treat their employees well because they're trying to create an environment that is highly competitive. Would you work for such a company? Should they change? Why or why not? Manager can implement controls before an activity begins, during the time the activity is going on, and after the activity has been completed. The first type is called feed-forward control, the second concurrent control, and the last feedback control. The most important of this is the feed-forward control. In this control process, you have actually anticipated the problems. Many refer to the concurrent control as a firefighter control process. They are able to fight fires. My perspective is, why would you allow a fire to occur in the first place? In the feedback control process, the most critical aspect is to learn from mistakes and make sure that they do not occur again. A firefighter should play basketball or football, not run a business. A question I would have for you: why would some people prefer being a firefighter? Managers might use traditional financial measures such as ratio analysis and budget analysis. Exhibit 18.10 summarizes some of the most popular financial ratios. Liquidity ratios measures an organization's ability to meet its current debt obligation. Leverage ratios examine the organization's use of debt to finance its assets and whether it is able to meet the interest payments on the debt. Activity ratios assess how effectively a company uses its assets. Finally, profitability ratios measures how efficiently and effectively the company uses its assets to generate profits. These ratios are calculated using selected information from the organization's 2 primary financial statements, the balance sheets and the income statements, which are then expressed as a percentage or ratio. It is critical that each of you learn these ratios by heart. They will be used throughout your course and most importantly, your career. Therefore, each of you are required to memorize these popular financial ratios and show what they mean. Sometimes those best practices cannot be found inside the organization and just needed to be shared. Exhibit 1811 provides some suggestions for internal benchmarking. What have you learned from another classmate in terms of how to study? What have you learned from a boyfriend, girlfriend, or just a friend that will help you in your life? What can we learn from each of these companies? A student told me a story about a locksmith he met when he locked himself out of the house. This student was amazed at how easily the locksmith picked his lock. But then the locksmith explained that locks were really meant to keep honest people from stealing. His view was that 1% of people would never steal, and another 1% would always try to steal. And the rest of us are honest as long as we're not easily tempted. My question to you is, do you believe this? Why or why not? I really do not want to know if you're honest or dishonest, but I want you to think about the time you took something that didn't belong to you. Let me give you a hypothetical situation. You borrow your sister's or brother's sweater without his or her permission, knowing that she would say no. Is this stealing? Why or why not? How does this relate to an employee situation? Let's take a look at some employees' theft situations. What can managers do to deter or reduce possible workforce violence? Once again, the concept of feed-forward, concurrent, and feedback and control can help identify actions that managers can take. Exhibit 1813 summarizes several suggestions. Is it appropriate to fire someone who's involved in workplace violence? Why or why not? Here's a few more ways to control workplace violence. I think it's always difficult to know what to do if someone has a gun in the workplace. Here's an example of what the city of Houston put out in terms of what they recommend people to do. However, many will argue that this approach is not the most effective, but you have to decide at the moment what you will do. Here's our in-class assignment for the day. Here are the optional homework assignments that will assist you in the final exam.